The topic of this video is what is science? So I'd like you to pull out a little bit of loose leaf paper and across the top make the heading of your note this evening, what is science? Add tonight's date in the top right hand corner as well. Before we start with a discussion of what science is, let's talk quickly about what science is not. So make this a subheading, what science is not. First of all, science is not a collection of facts, and that might surprise some of you. It's not a faith or a belief. And science is not perfect, unfortunately. Science can be done very poorly. And science can change over time, and in fact, science should change over time. A scientific theory is not a hunch or a best guess. Theory is a word that is used differently in the English language to how it's used in science. So if you're talking about an idea that you might have about something, you might say, oh, it's just a theory. But in science, it's not, a scientific theory is not just a theory. A scientific theory has been developed as a consequence of many, many careful experiments. And so it's not just a hunch or a best guess. It's probably pretty close to the truth, at least based on what we know and understand about nature today. Okay, so let's talk about what science is then. Science is a body of knowledge, but remember, the body can change. So for example, we could say things like, there is somewhere between 35,000 and 50,000 species of spider currently known to science. Something else that we could say would be the example of the Wollemi pine. We could say that some bushwalkers in New South Wales suddenly discovered a species of pine tree that had not been previously known to science. Of course, that doesn't mean that the pine tree didn't exist before those bushwalkers happened to walk through that canyon that day. It just means that prior to those bushwalkers reporting the existence of the tree, science, the body of knowledge, had never seen it before. Science is a process. The process of science is called the scientific method. That's the method that we use to test ideas. Most of this first month of your high school course will be talking about the method that is used to test scientific ideas. That brings us to our next point. Science is testable. If you can't design a fair test to come up with an answer to a question, then that answer cannot be added to the body of knowledge that we call science. So science must be testable. Science must be reproducible, which means if you design an experiment to test a question and you write out a method for that experiment, if I come along after you and follow exactly the same method that you did, I should get exactly the same results. I should see the same observations that you saw. If I can't reproduce your method and get your results, then your results cannot be added to the body of knowledge that's called science. And finally, science is objective. High school students in particular have a hard time with this one. You have learned that your teachers anticipate a particular answer. And so very often you will be tempted to make up observations that fit with what you think your science teacher wants to see. But when science is done properly, it's purely objective, and we always accept our observations, even when they're unexpected. And that's brought us to the end of your very first video. Good night.